Hi there, Dr. Carmen McGuinness here. Today we're going to talk about when adults ignore trauma in children who they care for. So this video might pertain to teachers, parents, aunts and uncles, grandparents, close friends of the family, and it might also pertain to children who have matured now and realize that they endured some sort of childhood trauma. So I just want to open first to sort of define what I mean by trauma. Trauma is any experience or single event that leaves us traumatized. So if we experience that we had trauma, then indeed we did. So this could be something as simple as, say, being pushed off a swing in a playground by another child, and being really hurt and, say, maybe surprised, snuck up on, felt like violence, and along comes the mom, and the mom, maybe the mom or the dad doesn't want to embarrass the other parent and says, "Oh, you're fine, you're fine, you're fine," takes the child home. Well, that can be a traumatic event, and then of course it can be something much, much more serious, like a sexual molestation situation, or being fearful that you might be harmed. And of course, prolonged trauma is always the worst, where you're always feeling that you're in jeopardy of one sort or another. Trauma might also involve feeling that you need to protect other people. So if you are a child, say, of an abusive parent who feels that they have to keep things calm in the home so that the other parent won't be abused or other children won't be abused, this is trauma. So those are some examples, and certainly if you're not sure if something was trauma or not, you should ask yourself, do I feel traumatized? And if it's an event that happened to a child that you caregive in some way, ask yourself, does that child seem traumatized? Symptoms of trauma are vast. It could be almost anything, and often there are no symptoms of trauma. So I would suggest, rather than going at it from a laundry list of symptoms of trauma, that you look at what the child is doing that makes you suspect that trauma might have occurred, and look that up and think about whether that might be a symptom of trauma. And of course, if this is serious enough, if you feel that it warrants professional help, reach out to someone. So moving along, let's talk first about what happens, what the repercussions are when adults ignore childhood trauma. And I have a list here, so I'm just going to go through them. So the first thing is that children begin to mistrust their own perceptions of what they see in the world. They begin to feel like, well, I don't have a clear understanding of whether something is good or bad. So I have to rely on people around me to tell me whether it's good or bad. And the second, is that they learn to deny their emotional responses. They learn to act out what they're hearing. I'm being silly. I'm overblowing this, that sort of thing. Third, they begin to mistrust their caregiver. That's another possibility, and those in authority in general. And these are the kids who may become oppositional defiant, ODD children. And another is that they assume that the incident is somehow acceptable, that it's okay that Uncle so-and-so or Auntie so-and-so or my mom or my dad or the teacher, whoever, did this terrible thing to me. That's okay. And what does that lead to? Well, it leads to also blaming themselves, which of course breeds shame and self-doubt. Now, all of the above, it's really important to understand, all of the above can possibly, potentially, and usually is repeated in adult relationships. And this is why it's so important that if you do reach out for help, you reach out to someone who has experience in trauma, attachment trauma, betrayal trauma, those sorts of traumas. So these people, as adults, tend to attract partners who aren't trustworthy or who have unwarranted mistrust. So they might have unwarranted mistrust of their partner. So two extremes. One is that they attract the untrustworthy person. The other is that they attract decent people, but they have unwarranted mistrust of that decent person. So instead, what should adults do? Adults should allow children to speak their mind when they say that they've been harmed in some way. They should accept their feelings. They should reflect upon the appropriate response without downplaying or overblowing it. And they should encourage them by stating confidence in their instincts, in their judgments of what happened. So that might be something like, well, if you feel hurt, then you were hurt. So let's talk about how we can make you feel better. Let's talk about how we can make you feel better, and then let's talk about how we can keep you safe in the future. The worst thing that an adult can do is tell a child that that didn't happen. When you think about it, it's the same thing as gaslighting. It's the same, and those are the adults that they will attract in adulthood. In adult relationships are people who will gaslight them, people who will use them, people who can wave their magic wand in front of their face and tell them that didn't happen, this didn't happen, everything's okay, you know I love you. Not good. So there's a little bit for you today. Now, that said, I do want to say that I will be in the future. I will be doing more talks similar to this one because I think this is a very deep topic. So I'll be going into some case studies, and I'll also be going into more particulars as to how childhood trauma can affect you in the long run. For today, I'll be putting up some links to other videos about trauma and how it manifests in adult relationships. And I would also encourage you, if this video resonates with you, to look at my online course, Raising Your Inner Child, because this is heavily covered in that course. The course is not just for children who have had trauma as adults, but it is there's a large portion of it in there for adults who experienced trauma as children. So Raising Your Inner Child, a course for adults who are finishing up the details of raising themselves as adults. I hope this has been helpful. I apologize that it was a couple of days late. I have family in town, so my Sunday didn't come up till Tuesday, but I'm doing the best I can, and tomorrow you will see me for my midweek sneak peek as to what we'll be talking about next Sunday. And yes, I will be here next Sunday. I look forward to seeing you then. Have a wonderful week.